I've never told anyone this story. Not the whole thing, anyway. Even saying it out loud now, a part of me feels like I shouldn't. It's like giving it power, letting it out into the world. Because ever since that night, nothing has ever been the same again. I've moved houses, switched cities, even thought about changing my name, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. I still see his face sometimes. In reflections, in dark windows, in my dreams. Always watching. It happened exactly 2 years ago, on November 14th, 2021. It was a Sunday night. At the time, I lived alone in a small house on the edge of town, right up against the woods. It was quiet, peaceful, maybe a little too peaceful. I liked the solitude, or at least I thought I did. I liked the silence. But that night, the silence became something else. Something alive. It felt like it was listening. It was around 11 o'clock. I was at my desk in the living room, absorbed in some old horror documentary, headphones on, totally zoned out. Outside, the wind was picking up, howling and scraping branches against the side of the house. Every now and then, I'd hear dogs barking in the distance. It was all just background noise, normal stuff, but then I heard it. A soft but deliberate knock. At first, I thought it came from the front door. I paused the video, pulled my headphones off, and just listened. Silence. Nothing. Just the wind whining and the house creaking. I shook my head, laughed at myself. Just my imagination playing tricks on me. Classic, but then it came again. This time from the window right next to me. 3 sharp, distinct taps. T-I-K ... T-I-K ... T-I-K ... My blood ran cold. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing up. My first rational thought was that it had to be a branch. A tree branch thrown by the wind, hitting the glass. It had to be. Slowly, cautiously, I got up and pulled the curtain aside, my heart hammering against my ribs. Nobody. Just the faint, watery glow of the street lamp at the end of the driveway and the slick, wet grass of the yard. Rain had started to fall, making everything glisten. Probably just the wind, I whispered to myself, but my own voice sounded fake, unconvinced. I let the curtain fall back into place, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I reached over and switched off the desk lamp, plunging the room into darkness. I wanted to see outside better without my own reflection getting in the way. My eyes slowly adjusted, and that's when I saw him. There was someone standing at the edge of my yard, right where the manicured lawn met the wild tree line. A person, perfectly still, silent, just watching the house. He was wearing a long dark coat, and his head was tilted slightly downward so I couldn't make out his face. It was just a dark shape against the even darker woods. I told myself it had to be a neighbor, maybe someone drunk taking a shortcut home from a party. It had to be a logical explanation. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. There was something fundamentally wrong about how still he stood. It was an unnatural stillness, like he wasn't even breathing. A wave of pure dread washed over me. I quietly backed away from the window and double-checked the lock on the front door. I pulled all the curtains tight, making sure there were no gaps. I went to the kitchen for a glass of water, trying to get my racing thoughts under control. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the glass. 5 minutes passed, maybe 10. The house was quiet again, except for the drumming of the rain. I started to calm down, telling myself I'd overreacted. And then I heard it again. T-I-K ... Tick. But this time, it wasn't from the window next to the desk. It was on the opposite wall. The back window, the one that looked out into the deeper part of the woods. He was moving around the house. My heart didn't just pound. It felt like it was trying to break out of my chest. I grabbed my phone, my thumb hovering over the emergency call button. But I hesitated. What would I even say? There's a man standing in my yard? They think I was crazy? Maybe it's just some drunk guy, I said to myself again, clinging to a thread of logic that felt thinner and thinner by the second. I had to look. I had to know. I crept over to the back window, took a deep breath, and yanked the curtain open, and my world stopped. My heart nearly exploded. Right there, inches from the glass, was a face. Pale, waxy skin, Black, completely empty eyes. And a smile. A horrifying, twisted, unnatural smile. It didn't look like a real expression. It looked like someone had taken his mouth and just forced it open with invisible strings pulling the corners up towards his dead eyes. I screamed and stumbled backwards, dropping my phone. It clattered on the floor, the screen lighting up the dark room for a split second. In that brief flash of light, I looked back at the window. And he was gone, vanished, as if he'd never been there at all. Just the rain-streaked glass and the dark woods beyond. I don't really remember what happened right after that. It's a blur. Maybe I fainted. Maybe I just curled up on the floor and hid. But the next thing I knew, pale sunlight was seeping through the gaps in the curtains. Morning. My phone was on the floor. Screen showing the time. 6:23 a.m. For a few beautiful, blissful seconds, I thought it was all just a nightmare. A really, really vivid nightmare brought on by the horror documentary. And then I saw it on the outside of the window glass. It was wet, cold, and covered in handprints, not smudges. Perfect, clear handprints. It wasn't a dream. After that night, I was never the same. I became a prisoner in my own home. Every evening, as the sun went down, the dread would return. I started hearing the same tapping, sometimes soft and distant, from other rooms. Sometimes it felt like it was right by my ear. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find my phone unlocked. The Notes app open with a single word typed across the screen that I never wrote. Look, I couldn't take it anymore. I was losing my mind. A few weeks later, I packed everything I could fit into my car. I didn't even care about the rest. I just had to get out. The day I was leaving, I did one last walkthrough of the empty house. As I stepped outside for the last time, I glanced towards the yard, and there he was, standing beneath the same tree at the edge of the woods, but this time the sun was out, and I could see his face clearly, and it was mine. I stood there, frozen on the porch steps, my breath caught in my throat. My reflection, or whatever it was, stared back at me from across the lawn. It had my face, my hair, my eyes, but it wore that same broken, impossible smile. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it dissolved. It vanished into thin air. I haven't seen him since I moved. But the feeling of being watched never really left. And every now and then, when I'm alone and I happen to glance at a mirror too quickly, or catch my reflection in a dark window at night, for just a fraction of a second, I swear I can see the corner of my own mouth twitch into that horrible smile. Thanks for listening. If you felt a chill down your spine, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the dark. Stay safe out there.